since we started covering drama on this channel, there has been a certain feeling of dread hovering around. And that is despite the fact that unless we are talking about a Riot self-inflicted drama, these kinds of talks are supposed to be fun. I mean, over the last 2 years we have covered some hilarious topics. There was the infamous battle between the Nami mains and the Syndra mains over who would get the next legendary skin. We got the Seraphine mains being Seraphine mains. We got Shen mains who had to deal with Riot in all sorts of ways. We got Warwick mains who started posting their But the entire time I knew there would be a day where we would have to face a great evil. A place of hostility, hatred, and rage. Which is how we arrived on the Xayah main subreddit. Now, a bit of context. Whenever we are talking about these subreddits, it is all mostly memes. None of them are actually that bad, and it is not like a community can represent every single member in it. All of those champion main subreddits share one thing. They can all be civilized when they are dealing with a reasonable issue, but they always burn whenever they are dealing with skins. And really, it doesn't matter if you are a Sona main, a Mordekaiser main, or a Seraphine main. Whenever a skin is on the line, the gloves are off. And let me tell you, especially Seraphine mains have quite a history of threatening Rioters over skins. Better yet, they forced Rioters into locking their social media because Seraphine's hair wasn't perfect. Anyway, as I said, nobody is saint, and surprisingly, everyone becomes civil once the drama calms down. But the entire time, there has been a place I have always been scared of. And that is the Xayah mains. Because we are talking about an extremely popular champion, who is deeply integrated into the Queens of League, and which is also an AD carry, which means they are in general having a miserable time. That could only be beaten by a jungler. The foreshadowing Kiana. But it's not like these communities stick to their stereotypes. For example, the Seraphine mains made a complete 180-degree turn after they threatened the developers. Which again happened over hair, and also over a skin that was made in a completely different game, in a completely different engine by a completely different team. Anyway, these days, after they made Riot listen one way or another, the Seraphine mains act almost like a glue. And whenever another main from the girly subreddits is having drama, the Seraphine mains arrive to bond everyone together. Yes, there is an entire hidden lore behind all of these places. And that is what finally brings us to the core of today's topic. Because with the latest build of PBE, we also got some brand new skins. All of which are part of a skin line you might be familiar with. Battle Academia, which just got 4 new skins, out of which 3 of them have completely separate dramas. How is this possible after the Mordekaiser debacle? I have no idea. But here is what's happening. Starting with Kayn, who might be the only skin that is actually clear of all the drama. This is simply a good skin within the theme. His abilities are pretty unique from all the other skins. The Rast form is incredible, it really looks like a sci-fi Reaper. But the Assassin form is even better. There it almost gives me like a Pulsefire vibes. And now I'm wondering if there is some kind of a story tie between these universes. Because remember, Rast is usually used to tie different skins together. For example, in the Odyssey skin, that Rast actually comes from the Darkstar universe. So maybe they can tie Pulsefire together. However, this skin does have one minor flaw. And that is the recall. Now historically, the Battle Academia skin line has always been about the characters as if it was a shonen with superpowers. And so, in their recalls, they always showed off those powers. But for the first time with these new additions, that's not happening. Kayn simply spins his scythe like the cool student he totally is. Which sets up an issue with another skin that comes back in a bit. But overall, this skin is just good, and for the most part, it is without drama. After which, we also got Battle Academia Kiana. Now, this skin is also pretty decent. It is a slightly more sci-fi-ish version of the elemental Kiana we know. And for the most part, there isn't really anything bad to point out here. Besides the fact that a lot of Kiana mains are very unhappy. Not because this skin would be bad, but because apparently there was a leak that Kiana would be getting a legendary skin from the Elementalist skin line. So that just like Elementalist Lux can shift into the different forms, so could Kiana master all the elements. Somehow this leak spread far and wide. And sure, on paper it sounds cool, it sounds like something that Kiana should be able to do. It is an Elementalist skin line for an Elementalist champion. Totally ignore the fact that if she swapped into something like fire, her abilities would still have to be readable for different elements. So fundamentally, the idea of shapeshifting just doesn't work for Kiana. Besides that, on paper, this is cool. It makes the leak sound believable. It's simply something cool. Although it was fake. And so now, some people are mad that we got a skin that is simply not as cool as the totally made up thing that people imagined. But thankfully, that is not the only drama that this skin has. Because on top of this, the really interesting thing is that this skin is a prestige skin. Now, does that mean that this skin is gonna be the final reward of a battle pass? No, because remember, Riot themselves don't even know what prestige really means. And so this is just a normal epic quality skin that for no real reason will be just for 150 mythic essence. And I'm pretty sure that's gonna become the standard, so randomly a skin from a skin line will usually be a prestige version, I guess. Despite not really having a prestige version, it is just a prestige skin, and yes, all of this is still very confusing. Which takes us to the heavy hitters of this drama, Xayah and Rakan. So first, let's have a look at Rakan. Again, in isolation, this is a good skin. Animations look good, spell effects are fine. There is nothing really to hate about this, but then you can start pointing out some really funny things. First of all, this skin does get some alternative universe lore. Specifically, in this skin, Rakan was dating someone else, and then he saw Xayah, he ditched his previous date, and he joined her team so he could be with her. That's it, that's the drama. There are people who are mad that this doesn't feel like Rakan because Rakan was dating someone else before Xayah. I wish I was making this up. Just know that in the original lore there were always a lot of people who always found Rakan appealing. That was before he ever met Xayah. So technically everything is still in line. But fortunately, besides this thing, there are two more things that people started pointing out. First of all, let's have a look at Rakan's recall. You can see that here he got an animation with a locker, and you might be able to notice that that locker is a reused asset. Because originally that locker comes from the Heartthrob skin line which Riot released 2 years ago. Is this the biggest deal? Not really, but to be honest, this does not look that great together with all the budget cuts that are happening around League. But worst yet, this recall is underlining a problem with the entire skin line. Because these new skins don't really follow the Battle Academia formula. In the past, these skins always focused on the powers, as if this was an anime. I mean, that is where the name of the skin line comes from. But now they just focus on dating and relationships and being a good classmate. I mean, sure, even Ezreal had parts of this in his emotes, but the recall was just all about action. With the action just being the focus of the entire theme. At the very least, there was a fine balance. But some people are not the biggest fans of the new skins because now they are focusing on the school aspect of the theme, not just the superpowers. Which actually made the entire skin line feel more like Star Guardians now. And sure, I get it, I would have liked more action-packed recalls too. But funnily enough, even this isn't the biggest thing that Rakan mains are dealing with. Because more importantly, since this is a Rakan skin that is being released with the new Xayah skin, of course people are mad that once again they did not get a joint recall. That joint recall is just their default version. And sure, I totally get that. Rakan and Xayah were originally released with the idea that they would be getting new iterations of this. But Riot later mentioned that making these unique recalls is actually quite difficult, so they will just stop. So yes, the situation still sucks. But this directly leads us into the biggest drama that is happening here. And it is the one that involves Xayah mains. It is one that involves a lot of fuming. And it is one where I have to side with the Xayah mains because this situation is hilarious. So, once again, in isolation, this skin is good. Despite the recall not really being actiony, all the emotes are totally fine. They are all references to different shonens. And they are all in line with what Ezreal got before. The abilities also have really cool spell effects, and the cloak is now animated to react with the attacks. Again, when it comes to quality, I don't really have much to point out. But in context, apparently this is a legendary skin. Yes, this is supposed to be on the exact same level as Battle Academia Ezreal. All while the Xayah skin is mostly using default animations. But what's amazing is that that's not even the funniest part. What's funnier is that when this skin is using unique animations, they are taken from the Star Guardian skin. Which means, technically by association, the Star Guardian skin should also be a legendary now. I mean, is this resourceful on Riot's part? Sure. Do the new spell effects leverage the entire skin to a legendary status? No. And that is the big issue right now. Just like when Samira got an ultimate skin that was really just a legendary skin, so is now Xayah getting a legendary skin that is really just a normal epic skin. Now apparently, later on, this skin will get unique voiceover, because remember, there was a voice actor strike happening, so I totally get that. And sure, with the help of a new voice, this could be closer to a legendary status, but those animations are still missing. Not to mention that again, this is a legendary skin without a joint recall with Rakan. And so, that's the current situation with the Battle Academia skins. Some of them are missing features, some of them are cool but not as cool as something people made up, and some of them are just a pricier version of what they should be. All while reusing older animations. And also assets from entirely different skin lines. Speaking of which, the Xayah mains also noticed one more thing, because apparently Xayah is also getting an annoyed emote, which happened for the third time. I'm pretty sure by now she should be capable of more emotions.